Hello, everybody. This is a intro to my interview with Morgan Jahnig of Old Crow Medicine Show. Morgan and I sit down and talk about the brand new record by Old Crow called Union Made, which came out in conjunction with America's 250th anniversary. Morgan sits in the producer's chair for this record as well as plays on it. He's been a member of Old Crow since 2000, playing the bass, touring with the band all over the country. We talk a lot about the songs. We talk a lot about the recording, the guest artist on the record, and so much more. I will say as a precursor that both Morgan and I were having some technical issues, some internet on both ends. Morgan was recording from a dressing room in Salt Lake City, and I was recording very far away from a router where I'm located currently. So there is a little bit of a technical glitch, but hopefully it doesn't detract from the conversation that takes place. So I hope you sit back, enjoy, check out Morgan and Old Crow on tour, go purchase Union Made, and yeah, I'm very excited to share this one with you. So here it is, my conversation with Morgan Jahnig of Old Crow Medicine Show. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I am very excited to have with me Grand Ole Opry member, Grammy winner, bass player extraordinaire with a great new mustache that I like a lot, Morgan Jahnig from Old Crow Medicine Show. Morgan, how are you, my friend?
It's going well, man. How you doing?
I'm good. Morgan graciously agreed to talk with me a little bit. Old Crow has a fantastic new record, a little over a month old now, called Union Made. Came out back in early June on Heartland Records. It's a fantastic record. It goes perfectly with your America 250 playlist because it is very American. It is wonderful. It honors what makes America so wonderful. And Old Crow are just a small part of that. And I'm a big fan of the record. Morgan has been a member of Old Crow's really almost since the inception back in 2000. You go to an Old Crow show, you see Morgan there slopping the double bass, looking really cool doing it. So Morgan, again, thank you for doing this.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure.
What people might not know that are just casual fans is that Morgan is the producer of this new record, Union Made. Morgan, can you tell me a little bit about what it was like? Not only are you a member, but now you're in the production chair. Tell me a little bit about that with the record.
Well, I've been producing records, off and on for the last 30 years, ever since I got into music as a teenager. As soon as I could play and then also hit record on something, I've been making records on people. And when we moved into our building in East Nashville called Heartland back in 2020, that really kind of that was a new avenue into making records at a level that I hadn't had the opportunity or the space to do before. It's a great place that we've got with a couple of studios in it that we're able to work out of. And so I'd been making records for a long time. And even with Old Crow, when we would do some smaller projects, some singles, or doing demos, or even the last two big records that we did at Heartland, being Paint This Town and Jubilee, kind of co-engineered with Matt Ross Spang, and Old Crow Medicine Show co-produced with him at that time. And so when we were going into making this record, it really felt like an opportunity to just stay on one side of the glass, to not be jumping back and forth, or having an iPad there hitting record while I'm about to start playing, and just being able to concentrate on the quality of the songs, the quality of the performances, and kind of just let go of the performance side of it. Luckily enough, we have an incredible bass player as well in our band, PJ George, who is just such an incredible multi-instrumentalist, but really a top-notch bass player. So I knew that we had somebody to cover those duties, and that while being different, a different sound and a different approach, we would be able to get absolutely fantastic performances. And so that was a lot of fun for me to be able to just stay on one side and really make the best record that I think that we could have possibly made.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, I've been a fan of you guys for so many years, and I was in a recent record store and found a CD of the Utah record from pre-Wagon Wheel days, and your name is in the thanks. So even pre O.C.M.S, the official debut, so to speak, you're connected with these guys. So from the
I think technically
side,
I mastered that record.
the mastering. Wow. Okay. It's really cool to hear, those early tracks, those raw tracks, and how far you all have come in so many different ways, but also how true you've stayed even to those raw tracks, especially when anybody goes to your live shows. When you've played with these guys now, I mean, you particularly for 26 odd years, what is that like? Is there a weirder kind of feeling for you to, you've got your friends, bandmates, but you're also kind of needing to get things straightened out? Is that weird being in that frame of mind?
When over the course of those 26 years, we've had a lot of different permutations of this band, a lot of different players coming and going. And one of the things that I think that allows us to do as a band is that because all things are changing all the time, it's important and incumbent upon us to make sure that whatever we do sounds like Old Crow Medicine Show. No matter who's in the band, it should feel like Old Crow Medicine Show. And I think that that's something that we're very good at. And so when it came time to kind of boss my friends around a little bit, we've been doing that to a certain extent for, years now, where, Ketch is the, sole founding member that is still in the, in the lineup, with the exception of Willie Watson, who just rejoined the band very recently. And so he kind of knows what he wants, and I've been working with him long enough to know what he wants to. And so when it came time to have me step aside as a performer and just move into a production chair, there wasn't too many opportunities to disagree, because I think that it was knowing what these guys do really well and just letting them do it. And, on the very rare occasion where there was some guys wanted to do this and some guys wanted to do that. And, you kind of have to say, okay, well, we're just going to do this now. I think the fact that, Ketch and I have been working together for more than a quarter century really means that, like, okay, I think he might have a good idea about what might need to happen. So
the trustworthy guys in the band. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, is when you're working with a producer, any producer, whether it's Dave Rawlings or Dave Cobb or, T-Bone Burnett, like, you have to have trust. You have to believe that that person is trying to get the best out of you for the best record that you can make. And so when you're working with somebody new, it takes a while to build that trust. And that was always, that was there from day one when we started making this record.
Sure. Now, with this record, again, Union Made, it was announced, I think, back in April when the first single came out. And there are so many great artists on here with you guys, Jesse Wells, Del McCurry, Molly Tuttle, Ray Benson, just so many cool people from the country world, from the folk world, the bluegrass world. Was that interesting for you? Again, you've got these guys that you've played with, a lot of them, again, for several years, especially Corey and Ketch. And then you got all these folks that have, some of them are royalty in the music world. Was that different for you with, like, Del McCurry or Ray Benson, like those guys that are like the patriarchs coming in there?
Well, I think, there were two aspects to this. The first being that when we've done guest spots in the past on, with Jubilee and Paint This Town, those ideas kind of came towards the end of the project, where we thought, like, oh, wouldn't it have been cool if we had gotten Sierra Farrell on this song? And then we're like, yeah, maybe we can make that happen. And then Sierra comes in. We end up rewriting the whole song and working with Sierra on Bellmead Cockfight, um, or having just anybody come in kind of later in the process. It tends to you end up adding them to it rather than having them be part of the process. And with this record, we really knew early on that we wanted to work with a lot of the people that we ended up working with. And so it was part of the process from day one, and was able to, link in, and we knew we wanted it. So we planned on it. And with the exception of Jesse Wells, really, these were all people that we knew. These were all our friends, people we worked with in the past. So one of the first acts that we ever went out on tour with was Del McCurry, the Del McCurry Band. And they were so kind and took us under their wing, really taught us how to be a touring band. And we aspired to do the things that they could do, and fell short in a lot of ways. So learned our capabilities and our the things that we were good at by working with them. You work with great people, and you see what they're great at. You try to emulate it, and then sometimes you can't reach that far, and so you have to pivot and be better at them than something else.
Sure.
So working with Maggie or working with Evan Felker, like these were all guys that we had done stuff with in the past, whether touring, whether playing other shows. When we did the Heartland Hootenanny during COVID, we had some of these people come into the studio and work with us at that time. So it was very comfortable to have all of these people, and then to find out like what a great guy Jesse Wells is, and we've worked with him since and hope to work with him more in the future. Like, it's such a great opportunity to access a camaraderie that you didn't know was there. So these
Sure.
projects come along and open up these opportunities, and as long as you take them, and they kind of meet you in the same place, and they're as open and excited about it as you are, then what ends up happening is you get these great songs and you get these great collaborations.
Well, I think what's great too that you guys have as Old Crow, you guys have kind of become, stalwarts now, especially in the Nashville scene with your New Year's Eve shows. Now you're doing 2 nights at the Ryman so many years in a row now, and that's kind of become this, wonderful party with guest stars coming out. And I know you had, Willie came out for that a few years ago, Willie Watson, and you brought Critter out a few years ago. Just really, really cool stuff that you're bringing all these people in to play. Just, again, it's informal, but it's also just this wonderful time. And you guys, I think, have such a respect in Nashville now that it makes total sense that you would have an album like Union Made with, 7 or 8 great guest artists who are fantastic in their own right.
It is guest artist heavy. It really is. And,
well, it's great.
The Ryman, and the Ryman show, I mean, come on, the best standing gig any band could ever have is, we're going to be moving our 17th year this year doing New Year's at the Ryman. I mean, they'll have to pry our fingers off the doorknobs when they need somebody else to do the show, because I absolutely love it. And it does not necessitate, but like it is like I said, an opportunity to reach out to the greater music community and say like, okay, who have we been wanting to work with? Because the chance to go play New Year's at the Ryman is a cool thing to do, and so we've got a little bit of leverage there to get cool people to come and play shows.
Sure. Well, what's cool, and one of the things that I liked about this particular record, and I've bought all your stuff. Everything has its own unique flavor to it, and I did a video on this when it came out. And what I like so much about it, to me, is that it encapsulates that best of America spirit that seems to be missing from so many different points in today's world. And you guys do such a good job. And I remember, I think Ketch wrote it on one of his newsletters that I get. You all play, with artists from both sides of the aisle. They have fans from both sides, but you guys always seem to bring people together, and just for the hour and a half, 2 hours that you're playing, things are forgotten, and you guys do it in such a fun way, but also getting a message across. That's a very important message, and I think Union Made is the perfect example for that. Can you tell me a little bit, like, how important this record was, especially this year, 2026, with it being the 250th just a few weeks ago? Tell me about the importance of that, and kind of coinciding with that, with this release.
Well, when the semi-quincentennial was upon us,
Well done.
we really, we were looking for. I think anytime you make a record, especially when you have such a prolific songwriter as Ketch, where you have, dozens, if not, hundreds of songs to choose from to make a record with, to have something to kind of, be the guardrails within which to make a record can be so helpful, because otherwise you're just, you're picking great songs, and but to have something where you're saying, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make a song for the 250th anniversary of the U.S., and we're going to talk about history, and we're going to talk about culture, and we're going to talk about hope. We're going to talk about tragedy. And Ketch is such a great historian, and he's got such a storyteller's mindset, that once we knew that those were the things that we were going to do, we were able to go back into the catalog as well of songs that we passed by once upon a time because they didn't make sense for the record we were doing. Last American Waltz is a perfect example of that. That song we did a demo for that song for the Remedy album back in
Wow. Yeah.
2010 or something, maybe. So this song's been banging around for about 15 years now. And
wow. Yeah.
And it was a song that I always loved and had always hoped to make, to have it make its way out into the world, even if it was just releasing that demo. But then we were doing this, semi-quincentennial record, and I said, okay, you know what? This is when Last American Waltz is going to come back, and I'm going to make sure it's on this record because I love it so much.
Yeah.
And then, Ketch, I'm looking at the songs that were here, and I know that My Side of the Mountain had been around for a little while, because that was one that Ketch and Molly wrote with Luke Combs a couple years back. And then Y'all All Come was also one that I think was maybe in contention for Paint This Town at the time. And so we were able to look at these songs through this new lens and say, okay, these things that we really liked, but we couldn't find a place for, we have a place for now. And then Ketch just also went and wrote probably another 20 songs that were, there were songs that he wrote that were, really fun. Like he wrote a song about Armistice Day. He wrote a song about becoming a naturalized citizen. He wrote all these great songs about what the American experience is like. But you can only, did I lose you? But you can only, fit so many on an album.
Let me jump in now to, you mentioned Willie Watson earlier. Tell me, what that's been like bringing him back. I know you all did some shows with him last year. I know you recently had a show with him and Marty Stewart back in Richmond. I'm from Virginia, so I couldn't make that show, but I was one that I was dying to go to. Tell me what that's like, bringing Willie kind of back into the fold.
Well, Willie, at number one is being a founding member and being around in those earliest days of Old Crow. He definitely brings a rootedness back to the core of what Old Crow was doing in the early 2000s. And then, the number one, honestly, is that, Ketch and Willie's voices together, their vocal blend is something that I think that we've been chasing since, we parted ways back in 2010, 2011. So, having him back out and having his guitar playing and his singing has, felt like it was it's a chain back to the the earliest times of Old Crow and the old timey music and the roots of it. We've spent decades growing and evolving, and so to be able to have that touchstone back. I mean, he really came back when we did our Back to the Roots tour, which was our playing our first two albums in their entirety and having that be the show. And that was a lot of fun to go and revisit those songs the way that we played them 25, 30 years ago. And because each of those songs have evolved in their own way over time. And it was interesting to go back and see, to go play it the same way that we would have played it at Cat's Cradle in Carborough, North Carolina in 2001.
Well, one of the cool projects that has come out in the last 2 years now, to bring that up, is the reissue of the O.C.M.S. and the Iron World records with your old friends David and Gillian. Tell me about that and seeing those come out on vinyl and sounding so great like they do.
Well, that it was those two records were never on vinyl, and so that was something that we wanted to do. And Dave, having been the producer on those records and being such a accomplished ear in the studio, we knew we wanted him to be the one to make those new vinyl masters. And I'll tell you, I remember when we put that first test pressing of O.C.M.S. on the turntable at our studio, and he came by, we just listened to just a quality control check, really. And I just remember thinking, this record has never sounded this good. So, 20 something years later, there was still room for improvement on that album. So, it's cool because it reinvigorated our perception of those records, and hopefully new people's perception of those records, because they were so important to us at that time. And I know that they've been important for other people. So for them to be able to experience it in a new way, that's been a really cool thing to see for new people and, old people, remembering the time back then and coming and seeing us perform those records live. That was a special time.
And what is that like, especially, again, you did that tour, you had the two records in their entirety. You're still playing, obviously a lot of those songs are still in the rotation. And what's great about the live set from Old Crow is that really every set list is a little bit different. I think I've seen you guys 5 or 6 times, and every time it's been different. And, you bring in the really cool covers, because I think and you can correct me being, the main source here, you're really trying to bring like the best of just music I've seen you guys cover, Tom Petty, and I've seen you cover Beastie Boys, I've seen you cover Beyonce, but I've also seen you cover, old, Jim and Jesse tunes and traditional Doc Watson tunes, and, obviously your own stuff. Is that kind of the goal of an Old Crow show? I mean, somebody that's never seen you guys might not understand that, but that's what I feel every time I leave one of your shows.
I think that we're always trying to, we're always trying to have fun. That's a big part of it. This long into the tooth of being performing musicians, we really want to still enjoy it. And so we're playing the songs that, we want to play, that are exciting for us, just from our catalog. And then I think that there's also, and we've always kind of done this, is that we'll roll into a town or a region, and there'll be something that, I remember we did a Texas tour a couple of years ago, and we really we were at Green Hall and really worked in this Western swing dance medley. And that was so fun. And, you saw people out there two-stepping. And so that became part of the set. And we would always definitely do that, when we were out west. In the same way that I think that on this tour, we're in Salt Lake City today. We're going to be in Colorado tomorrow, and Montana and Wyoming. And so we're really looking at what the cowboy songs are, that are out there, and wanting to bring some of that feeling in. Or, we do a couple of songs that we sing in Spanish that will go over pretty well in New Mexico and Arizona. So I think that we're always trying. This entire record, this union made record, is also about largely the type of music that's played in different parts of the country, and that's something that we always do live on every show. If we're in North Carolina, the show's going to be different than if we're in Seattle, or if we're in Maine or in Florida.
Yeah.
So um, we really enjoy tailoring the show to the people who are going to be at the show. So,
Sure.
if we're in Virginia, you're going to hear, New Virginia Creeper, and you're going to hear James River Blues. If we're in
Yep.
Texas, you're going to hear Sweet Amarillo.
Yeah.
So that's very fun. And I think that, when we talk about covers, I mentioned earlier that I think that one of our strengths is that anytime that Old Crow plays a song, it's going to sound like Old Crow, and you're going to know it's us doing it, whether it's us doing a Kiss song, or us doing a Beastie Boys song, or us doing a Rolling Stones song. Like, we grew up with all this music. Music doesn't exist in a vacuum, and folk music encompasses every aspect of, every genre. As long as there's a good story to be told,
Right.
we're going to do our best to tell it. And so, um, being able to kind of say, like, okay, yeah, the Beastie Boys one, that was one that was definitely a how are we going to pull this off? And I think we did. It was fine.
Yeah.
We'll always find a way. We did. I remember we did. Oh, what was? I'm gonna forget the name of this artist. Oh gosh, like kind of a. I remember we did it at like New Year's at the Ryman one time. Was it Old Town Road? Is that right?
Oh, Lil Nas X.
Yeah, we covered Lil Nas X because it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Why not? Why not?
Why not?
I, I think a lot of people get really tangled up in, like, what's cool. Like, oh, that'd be lame for you to do a Little Nas X song. It was so fun. We had a great time
Yeah.
doing it.
Sure.
When we did Hey Ya when we were in Atlanta one time. Like, it was awesome, like doing an Outkast song. So I think that, as you get a little, more road under you as a band, you get to shed that kind of like, that's maybe a little cheesy, because cheesy can
Hmm.
be really, really fun.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, what's great, and talking about covers, the last track on Union Made is "For What It's Worth" by Buffalo
Yeah,
Springfield, which, like you said, as the music starts playing, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty much the melody. But then you guys start singing and harmonizing and everything, and how distinctive Ketch's voice is and his
yeah,
phrasing. You're like, well, obviously, Old Crow would cover this because it works. And
yeah.
like you said, it works for all those songs that I've seen you play, that you all have played over the years.
Coming up with the covers we wanted to do on this record, because we knew we wanted to do a couple, we wanted to pay homage to some other American artists. That was actually really difficult. We've done, so many different covers that would be considered quintessentially American covers, and we did know that we wanted to do For What It's Worth, and we had a couple others. I think there was a Springsteen song that was on the list that we were considering, but Ketch was really pushing hard for this Merle Haggard tune, this Rainbow Stew song,
Yeah.
which honestly most of us weren't that familiar with in the band. But Ketch had he was like, I really would want to do this, and so I listened to it, and I was like, you know what, you're right. This is a great song for this record. I think it fits perfectly, and it has been one of the more fun songs to play live, because you see people reacting to it. You see people who do know it, or you see people like, because we'll talk about Merle during the show, because we played a couple shows with him early days in Old Crow, and
Wow.
it's an immediately fun song, and we take a couple liberties with it that Merle may or may not appreciate, but it has been a really fun song. We're playing it tonight, so
Great. No, well, I think for me, one of my favorite songs off of the record of Union Made is "Beautiful Land" with Maggie Rose. That to me, I mean, I talked about it in my review that I did a few weeks ago. It has elements of, like the Alan Toussaint kind of horns, where like the band. I mean, I know you cover the weight quite a bit as well. Was that? I mean, I know there are different writers, etc. But you listening to that, you taking part in that, was that something that you were thinking like, oh, this sounds like this? Or I mean, it's so different for you guys. Like I said, it's got horns on it, and Ketch and Maggie going back and forth with the vocals is just gorgeous.
Yeah, that was definitely one where we had done a song on our Christmas record called, I don't know, I actually don't know if it made it on the record, but it's called Foggy Mountain Christmas.
Uh-huh.
Or no, Foggy Christmas, and it's a this might actually be this is maybe going to end up coming out another time, but it's a I think it's not on the record, but we did a song where we had a horn section, and it was very jazzy, and very kind of more Burl Ives kind of a Christmas
Yeah.
move, and um, and that was one actually that PJ had played bass on that one. He's such a great bass player for that style. And when we were doing this song, I think as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, we're going to kind of maybe do it a little bit like we did that other song. It's going to have a little bit more of a swing to it. And we knew we wanted to have a duet vocalist, with Catch on that song. And we thought of a lot of people during that time as we're making it, because the other thing that you're making a record, but you have a deadline. You got to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so also sometimes you're trying to figure out, okay, we'd love to have this person sing on it. Oh, they're on tour for 2 weeks. They can't come in, And Maggie, bless her heart, I think she'd just gotten home from the road. Like we were able to squeeze her in between 2 tours, and absolutely love Maggie's voice. And she came in and just slayed it.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're, we, like I said, we had thought about some other people. I don't know anybody who could have done it as good as Maggie Rose did. She absolutely killed it. And, we got Lee Oscar as well to play harp on it, because this was a song I think that Ketch had kind of written off of a Lee Oscar riff that he had kind of a song that was the kind of prototype version of this. You go listen to it and like, I don't know how Beautiful Land came out of this song, but sure. And Ketch, I think, also wrote this with a what's his name? Something Mosier. He a piano player that Ketch had written with in the past, that we performed with in the past. They wrote this together, and I think that the original demo of this was so soulful that we didn't want to lose any of that. And the messaging in the song about togetherness and hope is so strong that I think as long as we didn't lose any of it, as long as we didn't take it too far out and get too cute with it, and we just kind of let the song be the song it was going to be, then it was going to be good. And I'm really happy with where it came out.
Yeah, no, I mean, it blew me away hearing it. Because it starts with Catch, and then Maggie comes in, then them coming in together with like the la 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 at the end is just,
Yeah.
It's,
Which is
I mean, to me, it's
on
just
the day. Like we were
really,
just like, let's do something here at the end, and they just kind of, I think it was literally that they just said, oh, we're just going to go crazy at the end. I'm like, absolutely, just do that, vocalize. And then I think they came up with that line, or one of them did it the first time, and then they did it together the second time, and then they kind of fell apart into another thing. And we went back and was like, no, just do that. That was fantastic. Let's go back and do that again.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad they did.
It was something that was so spontaneous, and which is great about having somebody in the studio with you, because they were doing those, putting those vocals down together.
Well, with that, I guess finally, you guys are just so busy all the time. I mean, I'm talking to you now. You're backstage gearing up for a show tonight. At the time of filming, you just mentioned it. You had the Christmas album that came out at the end of last year. Less than a
Mhm.
year later, you have Union Made. You have there's a documentary out, Louder Than Guns, that you guys put out, which is a conversation in its own. How do you guys keep looking to something else? Because I feel like you guys just don't have time, and yet we get these announcements. Another Old
Yeah.
Crow album, great.
Yeah.
There's two of them in a year. It's wild.
Well, one of the great things about having a studio is it affords us the opportunity to have an idea and then execute it. And, we
Sure,
don't have these last couple of records have come out on our own label, our own imprint. So we have had the luxury of just saying, I want to do this, and then we do it. And um, we've also just have so many other irons in the fires at all times that you're just waiting for the right moment to pull one of them out and turn it into something. We've got something working on right now that may be coming to a record store near you this fall. Um, we've got a project that we're also starting, hopefully, this fall that we'll be working on next year, because I think that while the music industry is such that when we started playing music professionally, when we were a band that was making money playing music, the paradigm was that you made a record, a label paid you to gave you an advance to make a record, and then you went and you toured that record so that people would go buy it, and that was
yeah,
how you made. I mean, you made money playing music, but really it was just to go sell that record. You were out hawking a record,
yeah,
and nowadays you almost make a record to give shape to a tour, to have something to new to talk about, and to you know new merch to sell, and new new songs to play interspersed with all the other ones. And so um, keeping that kind of it's unfortunate because we we believe in the songs, we believe in the albums, they're special to us, and we put a lot of time and effort into them, and we really hope that other people go and get as much out of it as we put into it. um, and but the reality is that our old bands are not keeping themselves alive on record sales. Like, that's
yeah,
not how that works anymore. So
yeah,
these projects that we get to do, uh, it's almost more fun to just kind of do them a little quicker, do them a little more by the seat of the pants, and have more fun with them, and use them to, like I said, just kind of give the outline and the 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 things that you talk about, and the being able to uh, give your point of view in a different way than you would have just been able to do by just touring or just putting out singles or whatever, whatever the new cool thing is that these kids are doing these days, because we're old, man. Like, we're,
yeah.
we're some of us are closing in on 50 here, bud. And so it's like we're out
You're in your
here,
prime.
we're in our prime, and we want to be having fun, and we want to be talking about the things that we want to talk about, telling the stories that we want to tell. And because you're not you're not touring for a year and a half to 2 years to continuously promote this one record so that it will sell, now you're kind of freed up a little bit as well to just be like, well, we put this thing out, people are going to be paying attention to it for as long as we can keep them paying attention to it. But let's be honest, they're going to move on to something pretty quick, because attention spans are shorter than they used to be. So we're going to do something else that's
Yeah,
real fun. And
sure.
after that, we're going to do something else that's real fun. And because we are lucky and fortunate enough to be in the position to where we get to make those choices, we will. And we'll keep having fun doing it. We're in the fun business.
The fun business, Old Crow Medicine Show. Everybody, go check out Union Made. It's out now. Buy the physical copy. It's fantastic. Uh, Vinyl, CD, whatever you want to get. It's all on the website. They're on tour. Check them out. If you're in Nashville around New Year's, that's always a good time. Go check them out one of these years when you can. Morgan, I can't tell you how happy this made me. I'm so happy you got some time that you're able to talk to me and discuss the Union Made. So I appreciate you, man.
Well, Sam, thank you so much, and thanks for supporting good music.
All right, everybody, take care.